Hey everybody, Happy New Year. We've made it to 2021.
We're back.
Hallelujah.
We made it. Yeah.
We made it. It's been a while. We recognize that actually prior, the last time we did our podcast, it was pre-pandemic. And frankly, we still are in it, and we're keeping our distance, if you will. But we thought it was just so important for us to get back into this forum and have a forum essentially to connect with our members digitally. And again, if you guys recall, because I'll have to kind of go back and why this podcast exists. Number one, it was a prize for North Texas Giving Day, and so we really want to thank On Air Media for this opportunity. But secondly, we really wanted to have a forum where we can candidly really connect with you all and talk about some of the things that we hear in the boardroom that you all should want to know in order to refine yourselves professionally and personally. And so with that, we're going to take it back because this actually is 2021. It's an important year for our chapter. It is it's election year. And I guess I should start. I think you guys know I'm the chapter president. And this is our guest and our esteemed VP of Administration, Demetrius.
Thank you.
You know, he's suited and booted, clearly. He was ready for this podcast. But again, we wanted to have this opportunity to connect with our members and to really give you content that you can digest, whether you're in a car or at home these days. In order to refine yourself in your career. So we're keeping it real. And I'm really excited that we have a special guest who's not in the studio with us, but I would say with this quarantine environment, we're now able to connect with guests and speakers that live all across the world. So this is actually a blessing in disguise. And so with that, I really want to introduce my good friend who is the chapter president of Metro New York, Andrew. Hey, Andrew.
Hello, how are you?
We're excellent. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. Good.
Well, I am so grateful to have you here as a guest, especially as we talk about a key topic, which I'll now introduce. It's serving on a board, right? And I think that with it being election year, we know we're going to have many of our members and perhaps many of your members who are interested in serving on our respective chapter boards. And so we really wanted to give them a peek under the tent and just talk about why serve on the board holistically, and then we may narrow in on our specific chapters. But first, Andrew, can you just introduce yourself?
How are you doing, everyone? My name is Andrew Hamilton. I am the current president of the Metro New York chapter. I've been part of this organization for over 15 years. I volunteer in various capacities, started out as an inquisitive member, active member, volunteer, invited committees, invited to lead committees, and eventually go on the executive level where I now serve. I am, in addition to that, since we're volunteers, I am a 20 plus year of supply chain professional and worked in all aspects of supply chain, aerospace, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, textiles, and anything I say that moves on a ship, boat, or plane. So have that background with me, and it has been a real honor to serve for this organization. It's a real honor to know people like your current chapter president, Cherice, and know Demetrius as well. But it is also an entirely great human opportunity to serve our community and develop our next line of leaders and provide education and provide hope and opportunity to our community. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And so you said a key word that I think I'm going to just segue right into that. You mentioned that we're volunteers, right? And we are. I have to remind myself that sometimes when I'm in the weeds so much. I'm like, I have a 9 to 5. I have kids. And in a life, right? But we are a dedicated group of volunteers, and but I wanted to talk about that. You know, why volunteer to serve on the board? Now, obviously, there's many different types of boards that exist. There's nonprofit boards, which primarily are unpaid. So we're unpaid volunteers at that. But we are. But then there's also boards that you obviously you can be paid to serve on those boards. And so I personally haven't had an experience on a paid board yet. I know, but that's my aspiration. And I know that many of us may have that aspiration at some point as well. And so I looked at this opportunity to serve as I started to as a member for many years, then started with the DFW chapter as marketing chair, worked my way to VP of marketing, and then the president for the past 3 years. And this will be my last term, or my last year of my second term. So I guess I'll ask the question of why volunteer? Why? I'll start with you guys. I'll give my little take in a second. But Demetrius, we'll kick off with you. One, give me a little bit of background on your service with the Black MBA or boards and holistically, and then why.
Yeah, great question. So really, I like to think of myself as being raised in a family of public servants. So my father worked nonprofit my entire life. And well, he's retired now, but and so I got really early exposure to the nonprofit world and really thought I would have a career in nonprofit. But things kind of changed when I was in college. But I always wanted to just give back. And so that's why I serve on this board. I served previously in Milwaukee on that chapter's board, and just have been, I guess, involved in nonprofits my whole life, pretty much.
Gotcha. Andrew, what about you? Why did you get involved?
Well, I had a college professor that he mentioned that I need to either join another professional organization to help my education. And he mentioned the Urban League and he mentioned the National Black MBA Association. And as I was doing my research with the organization to join, of course, I made a choice to join the National Black MBA. The organization is just as good as this one as well. But specifically, I joined and the volunteer was to enhance myself. There are many times or occasions at your current job or career, you may not have the opportunity to exercise certain muscles. So if you want to, in my opinion, to go beyond where you are now, you have to stay in shape. So what does that mean? That means doing things that you normally don't do or normally don't do it everyday basis, being paid. And why not, from the investment side, volunteer your services to invest in yourself, to exercise that muscle. So when the time is right for you to need it, you're not out of shape or that is not foreign to you to excel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you keep saying stuff that's a great segue, because I was going to ask, personal, professional, learnings and, opportunities. And I agree with you. I actually joined this board right as I was moving to Dallas from Minneapolis, actually. And the first reason was to meet new people. Meet people that were professionals that looked like me, had a similar background education-wise. And my first meeting, they were like, well, can you serve? So I didn't even really have a chance to get, just to be a silent, observer. I had to jump right in. But I'm glad I did, and here I am. And I tell my board all the time that this has been such a learning for me. One, to just devote my skills and talents to an organization, and find ways to try new things. As a marketer in my 9 to 5, I leverage this chapter as a way to work with a more nimble company, frankly. I work for Fortune 500 companies where I can't just walk in and do something. I have to get approvals and all of that. And, working on a nonprofit, a smaller board, we have 15 board members. So we are actually one of the larger boards of the organization. But being able to just try some new things on social media and emails and all of that. But then as I moved to becoming president, I was like, whoa. Now I have to manage people, if you will. And not just manage someone that's paid to be there. which is what I do in my 9 to 5, right? At the end of the day, people can't cuss me out too much because they got HR, and they ultimately are paid to be there. But when I am managing and leading a board of 14 bright, smart, and professionals who have 9 to 5s and family, it's tough. It's tough because I know that, frankly, I am not probably top of mind for them. Furthermore, I have my own 9 to 5 and family to manage, and then I have to dedicate myself to this organization. And so that's been my biggest learning and growth, is learning to manage people that I don't pay. And with that comes, really being, frankly, an inspiring leader. You can't just tell people what to do. You have to inspire them and motivate them to actually want to do it, actually have to dedicate their time. I think I'm doing okay, Demetrius. You can feel free to talk crap about me. We are a very candid podcast.
Right.
But I guess, what are some learnings that you all have had? And again, Demetrius or Andrew, what are some of your biggest learnings from being on a board holistically?
So I want to jump in because I did serve on a smaller board, and I had to wear many hats, and it was a lot of work. So I kind of relate to you coming in and being asked to do stuff right away and being a contributor right away. But in regards to things that I've learned serving on the board, I agree with what Andrew alluded to before and what you said as well. This has given me the opportunity to really kind of groom myself professionally and work on some of the challenges or opportunities that have been pointed out to me by my senior leaders to help grow in my career. So one of those things was, how do you become more influential? How do you get I manage a couple of teams. How do I get them to really drive towards whatever objectives that we set for them? And I manage their performance. I can write reviews, and I can adjust their pay and all that stuff. So they have some kind of need to kind of respond more. But in this environment, we have volunteers and they don't really work for us. And so how do you influence, how do you motivate those volunteers? And so I've learned different ways to get people to try to perform and deliver. And of course, I take that back to work. Definitely getting out and kind of exposing myself more, being more vulnerable in this kind of environment. You have to really be willing to put yourself out there and meet different people. I'm more of an introvert a lot of times, but definitely as an ambassador for the organization, I go out and kind of put myself out there and meet different people that I normally wouldn't approach maybe. So I think those are my biggest learnings.
What about you, Andrew?
Wow. Glad it's only an hour. I think it has been a fantastic opportunity to learn a lot about myself. The position will demand that you will stretch past your capabilities and abilities. It has allowed me to know what my strengths are and know what my blind spots, and is giving me options and choices to address each of them equally, succinctly, but more importantly, humanly. I think that a lot of times serving, and we don't give ourselves enough grace. Mm-hmm. And I think coming out of this process, I've allowed to learn and love the word grace, because a lot of times that will give you the opportunity to grow and develop out of difficult or smooth situations alike. It'll be even keel as far as looking how your outlook on the process.
Thank you for that, both of you. And do you guys, do you talk about your board service at work? Is that leveraged in your with your managers?
Definitely, I do. And not just my manager, I have mentors at work and beyond. I talk about my service, and they honestly ask about it as well. And they encourage me to bring some of the stuff that I do with Black MBA back to work. And, they've attributed some of my growth to serving in this organization. So definitely I talk about it.
What about you, Andrew?
My organization is a little bit different. I serve on my ERG at work, so they definitely know about Black MBA. Definitely attend the conferences, but there's I'm a global company, so I know everyone doesn't know that I serve in a national Black MBA. I maybe do this disservice to myself because I wear different hats and different personalities that, with the term code switch. I code switch it when I have one job versus the other. It's encouraged. I think people ask about my my service quietly on one-on-ones. If you're on LinkedIn, you probably see as much activity on LinkedIn I do. So I get more of that communication, but nothing really outwardly and formally saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing." Because I think no one really understands the job we do unless you're sitting in a seat or you're close to the president and close to the board. So
Yeah, I'm kind of similar where my company is aware. We are a global company. They're absolutely aware of what I do. And I'm grateful for my boss because I want to say my first month, anytime he introduced me to someone in the company, he said, and she's the president of the National Black MBA. And then behind closed doors, he was like, "So what do y'all do?" He was like, "It sounds cool." But no, they've been definitely advocates, but I also don't probably tout it as much. I'm certainly not on LinkedIn as much. I'm behind the scenes on our chapter page, but I definitely could probably use it a little bit more. But truly my intent and drive is to really support the communities, as you mentioned, Andrew. Like, I'm really here to serve. If it supports and helps me out secondarily in my corporate job, then that's great. And it has, right? But that hasn't been my primary driver per se. And I do find, and let's kind of segue as we have just a few more minutes left, let's segue to, serving on our specific chapters, which we kind of, tossed in a little bit in our conversation. But again, we both have in New York and Dallas, this is our election year. I am going to be saying farewell this year. I have served the most that I can do, and believe me, I'm done. I got a little baby now. And so I will be signing off after 4 years as president. And Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been president for the same amount of time, right? We came in together. Yeah. And so according to our bylaws, I think you guys are the same way. You only can serve 2 terms. And so new presidents are coming into the fold, new boards potentially as well. And so with that, as you guys, as we start to recruit the next slate of board members, and you as well, Andrew, like, what are the right talents and skills that we want on these boards to keep them long lasting? I mean, our chapter's been around for 31 years, almost 32. What about you, Andrew? How many years have you?
It's 20. It'll be 20. It's 27.
Yeah, so we're coming from a legacy, right? And so what are the type of leaders that we need? And briefly, just kind of share your thoughts on what we need.
Wow. What we need. So definitely, Andrew mentioned this earlier, you have to have a personal motivation, not just for our board, but I think in nonprofits in general, there's always some kind of passion or some kind of reason why people serve successfully on nonprofit boards. Of course, if you have other intentions or motivations, it doesn't really work out in the long run. But when I say you have to have the passion, you have to be driven, you have to want to serve your community and the mission of this organization. You have to really be able to balance your time and make sure that you are available to commit to serving. It is a lot of work, and we're volunteering on top of 9-to-5s and family and whatever other personal interests we might have. You have to be very kind of proactive and innovative and intelligent. You need to leverage a lot of those skills that you learn in school and corporate and bring them to the organization, because we have to work to earn money and to satisfy our members and to attract and retain new members and really serve the community in the way that we want to.
Yeah, time commitment is super key.
Yeah.
What about you, Andrew? Any tips that you would give on the type of people you need on your board?
learners, patience, why you there. Always ask why you're there. Always ask, why are you serving? That's a question only you can answer. And self-motivated. I can't. That is the one ingredient that the team that I serve, which I love them dearly, are equally self-motivated. Those are great qualities to have in a team that surround you. And I'll surmise like this: always have my 3 eyes. Always here to inform you, inspire you, and invest. And always say that is your job, especially if you're MBA, you're a student, to be informed. Inform yourself. And then the information should inspire you. And you should figure out why you should invest in yourself. So those are my 3 eyes.
That's awesome, and a good way to kind of end on those 3 eyes as well. I'll have to steal those, Andrew. Don't be surprised if I use those in another podcast. But we are going to wrap this up. Again, we really wanted to, number one, just kick off for the year, give you a peek under the tent, because again, serving on the boards is not for it's not recreational. It really is a service on the board. We have stakeholders, we have members, we have corporate partners, and again, it should be a learning both ways, or mutually beneficial, essentially. Us giving to the organization giving back to us, again, professionally or personally. And so with that, we are going to end this podcast. The one quick question I have before we wrap up, and we always try to integrate this. So Andrew, I'll start with you. What song best represents 2021? What song would you use to represent 2021? Quick.
The man in the mirror, Michael Jackson.
Oh, okay. Man in the Mirror. For me, it is Go Hard by Rihanna and Young Jeezy.
Okay. I got a little kind of ratchet song too. But, it's
Mine's
called
not ratchet.
So Much Better. We'll debate that. So Much Better by Tinashe.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, you guys, thank you all for joining us for this podcast. Think about your song. What would encourage you, inspire you for 2021? Hopefully it's a better year than 2020. Thank you all. Bye. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.